Hi guys, and welcome to my first ever FM19 video. Now, this one might be a little bit muddled, and I'm going to explain why in the next couple of minutes before we get properly stuck into all this beautiful stuff that I've got coming up for you. But before any of that, I just wanted to say a massive thank you to Sports Interactive and all the guys down there, Curtis, Miles, Tom, Duncan, everyone that was down there, Seb, for bringing us down and making it an incredible event to get all this footage. It was a privilege to be invited, and I can't thank you enough. It was fantastic to go down there, meet the creators, and get some footage for you guys for the channel, which I'm now going to be presenting over the next few days. Don't worry, B67 is still happening. I might have to push a video back. I hope I won't have to, but if there is, I hope you can understand I do want to finish that season, so do not worry about that. It's still happening. So essentially, because of the way that we had to sort of record this stuff, I'm not used to doing portable recordings. I had to buy another microphone to take with me and all sorts of jazz. A lot of stuff kind of went wrong with my footage. So this video that you're about to see has been post-com, so I've had to record my voice over it this morning, trying to sort all this out, basically. So that's why there might be little bits that don't quite match up with what I'm saying. I've still tried to find clips that suit what I'm saying to show you the best of the best, basically. So we've got stuff to do with training, tactics, individual stuff that I noticed that was new to the game, the match engine. Don't worry, there's lots of match engine stuff. 3D in this episode, but 2D in tomorrow one. So it's not really a proper save. This is just, it's St Pauli because, well, I wanted to do a German team since SI now have the licenses to the Bundesliga and the second Bundesliga. So I thought it'd be nice to revisit St Pauli for this video. So just bear with me if things are a little bit muddled. I've never had to do anything like this before. Hopefully the second ones and from then on will be a little bit more straightforward. Tomorrow's one will have face cam in it because reasons. I'll explain that though in that video. For now, we're going to just get into this. It's also incredibly important to note that this footage was recorded on the alpha version of the game, meaning that a lot of stuff is subject to change before you actually get your hands on it properly. So just bear that in mind. Some of the stuff might not be exactly the same. Right, I'll now hand you over to me 20 minutes ago, commentating over footage recorded 2 days ago, to talk about some tactics. I'm sure it'll be fine, don't worry. Right, so now on to tactics. As you can see, you're given at the start a choice of different tactical styles that you can use. You can build your own completely, but it's good for perhaps the more casual player, or if you're just looking for somewhere to start. So many options on here. Control possession, vertical tiki-taka is the tactic I've actually been using throughout this entire period. Route 1, fluid counter-attack, all the basic sort of stuff that you'd expect. Vertical tiki-taka, I've had explained to me anyway by other more learned people, is basically Sarri ball. And I had a lovely time with that with St Pauli during this period. We've got Catenaccio, Park the Bus, all sorts. But don't worry, just by selecting your own style, you don't miss out on any of these sort of options that you would perhaps get with some of this stuff. It's all available in the create your own style, and I think this really is going to help. So when you go to create your own, which I actually didn't do here, but I do later on show you what that sort of stuff looks like. That'll probably be in the next video. I also really like the animations that you get to look at, just to show you what it kind of looks like on a brief scale. So now we've actually selected vertical tiki-taka. I go with the 3-5-2 because it's very similar to the Frozen Fortunes tactic that we've been using, so I figured I'd give it a crack. Obviously, this is just the team report, so I could see who was good in all of those areas. That's not any different, really, from FM18. But you can now see on the sidebar, obviously, you've still got the mentality of balanced and whatnot, but now you've got sort of possession, in transition, and out of possession, which are going to come into play massively, because it means you now actually can assign completely different styles of play, essentially, for what your team is doing with and without the ball, and also, more importantly, in the transitions, which is going to become very, very important. So it gives us even more tactical depth this year, which is something I'm really, really looking forward to getting to stuck in properly. I was only really using the vertical tiki-taka because I wanted to try and get stuck into the game and get as much footage as possible without having to worry so much about building my own stuff and testing things at the time. But I'm going to be digging into that stuff properly deep. And of course, with all these extra options of the three different styles of the three different phases of in possession, out of possession, and in transition, it also means there's new tactical options from within that stuff, and some parts of it have obviously been simplified and slotted into different ones. You've still got the conflicting stuff and all that jazz, but it's much more easy. It just seems much more ergonomical to use. We've also got some new roles, of course, this year. The pressing forward replacing the defensive forward, but now it has an attacking role to it. And most importantly, I did actually have a look through all of them here for you guys, just so you can see if there were any new ones. But the only other main new one is the no-nonsense centre-back, which is essentially replacing the limited defender, but it does have some slightly different roles attached to it as well. So, yeah, be careful when you're doing that. You might also notice that the libero sweeper role entirely has gone. The libero is still available, but it is now part of the centre-backs rather than the actual separate role of a sweeper. And I think that makes it a little bit easier overall. It's still there, though, so don't worry about that, all of you libero lovers. Now, just taking a look at some interesting stuff I found during my period, you might notice on this screen that one of the offer contract buttons is highlighted in green. That's basically a quick way of showing you which players your assistant recommends that you actually try and sign to a new deal. There is actually more information about that listed under each of the players, but if you just want a quick glance, you can see that the one that's highlighted in green is the one that your assistant is telling you to re-sign. Obviously, the trigger extension stuff is still there, and there's lots more stuff that he's giving you information there on that screen anyway, basically. The club profile screen's relatively similar to before. I don't think there's any major changes to it. You will get to see sort of the regen faces, as you can see mine there. They are definitely improved, if you were wondering about that. There's also a few more screens on the finances, which I do believe I'm going to go into as well. Projections have been improved too. You might notice that the projections are actually going up. As with B67, I always found that the projections projected us to be losing money constantly, no matter what, but it seems to be much more balanced in taking into account different things for the future, so it does seem to be far more useful as an actual tool now, which is very, very important if you ask me. There's also a salary commitment screen, which I'm not sure I've even got any footage of. Point is, it actually shows you your salary commitments over the next 5 years, which if you're going to do an MLS save, that is going to come massively handy for you with your salary caps and all sorts of jazz like that. You'll also see that the media screens are completely different now. Firstly, the passionate, cautious, and that is now listed across the top. And you might think that's a tiny feature, but it actually makes a huge difference because I used to hate having to go down to the sidebar and select it, and now it's across the top. It's nice. The screens have been improved a little bit. I know a lot of you probably won't do press conferences anyway. It even shows you the number of questions remaining, but I think it's nice to have it there. It even shows you, before the press conference starts, which media members are actually in the press conferences. I think it did that before, but now you get the logos and stuff, and you can see the journalists, and they look a lot better as well, actually. And I do believe there's been a lot more questions and stuff added to the database of questions this year anyway, so that should at least keep things fresh for longer too, because I know some of you probably get a bit bored of the questions after a while, but I might actually start paying more attention to it this year, and this has made me do that. Back into training as well, a little bit of both basically. You can now praise players' training performances, and that might seem like a small thing, but I think in player interaction, having more interactions that you can use to increase the morale of players is always important. You can also criticize the training performance. You could do this before, but now you've got way more stuff to balance it on and actually base it on. Now, they don't always like what you have to say, but sometimes they do, as you can see in this case. I find that anything over 8, generally you can get away with praising them, but they really do have to be performing quite badly for you to get away with dissing them, basically. However, if you don't sell a player and they're unhappy with you, you'll find that their training level will drop tremendously. You'll see more about that in tomorrow's video, where I definitely deliberately pissed off a couple of players to see what they'd react like, and suddenly they shot to the very bottom of the training charts. So that's kind of interesting to see as well. I also like that it gives you 3 players that you can use to jump straight from that menu into giving them some criticism or praise, basically. And you can obviously right-click and use the context menus to get to the other 2 players on the list. Now, scouting. Now, the scouting itself doesn't appear to have changed a huge deal, but the way that the data is presented is so much nicer. As you can just see from the scouting cards menu here, obviously this stuff is relatively the same as last year. You can set up all your different scouting preferences and get everything how you want it. That's not a huge issue there, but there are some new stuff on this menu too that I'll show you in a sec. So you can now actually filter based on like scouting team, analysts, recruitments, agent offers, all of this new stuff, which I don't believe was there before. The filters have been massively improved. The amount of things you can filter out now is immense. So you've obviously got your standard minimum scouting recommendations and all that jazz. You can decide whether it goes into your inbox or not straight from this menu. So you can get inbox from certain members of staff and certain other ones. But there is also advanced filters now, which you're going to see in a sec, and they are deep. You can pretty much tweak it to your heart's desire and get everything just as you might have wanted it. So these are the advanced features, and as you can see, you can pretty much get anything you want in there. And certain assignments, you can send them to your inbox. Certain ones will just stay in the scouting center. You can pretty much do what you want with it. It truly is exactly what I've wanted. And once I get to grips with all this stuff, I'm sure someone will come up with some ideas. I don't know whether the filters themselves can be imported or exported. I don't think they can, but it's not going to be too hard to copy from someone who knows what they're doing, basically. But it really, really is a huge improvement for me, this one particular screen. Now, these are what the cards look like when they're actually in your inbox, but you see you get the pros and cons of stuff, which was missing before. You can also see the players' attributes, obviously not all of them here, directly from the inbox, their positions and role, and even their medical sort of setting. So way more information is presented to you in a very small space. I found that offering trial wasn't always an option here, but it seems to be an option for almost every player I've come across too, which is nice. Just a few extra options. Also, the list mode. So if you've got a big list of 90 players that you've had scouted, as I often do, you can simply sort it by a list. You can see the ability, the potential, any stuff you want really. I think you can even add more columns to this, so it almost becomes like a mini version of the scouting mode on the other screen, and you can do all that without even leaving your inbox. And although the scouting mode took me a little while to get used to on FM18, I have now got used to it, and this is what I think is going to make it goes from good to really, really good, and I really cannot wait to get stuck into some deep scouting. There's almost certainly some stuff that I've completely missed out. I'm not sure if it actually used to show you how much they currently earn on this screen, but it does now, so that's nice to see, because that's something I always get confused by, particularly when players are asking for ridiculous money. You know how it is. Right, so I thought you'd want to take a little look at the match engine. Now, I've played all the games that you're going to see in this video in 3D because I wanted to sort of show it off, basically, to see what it's like. I'm more of a 2D man myself, but hey, a lot of the videos in the a lot of stuff in the next video will be in 2D. I think there's a couple of 3D ones in there as well, but as you can see, the match engine does look a lot better in a lot of ways. The lighting, I think, has really been improved. Now, again, this could be down to the fact that we were using incredibly powerful PCs over the weekend to do this. I'll be reserving that judgment on that till I see it on my own PC. But the match engine itself just looks generally a lot better. It can't be denied. There's a lot of new features in it that are going to go under the radar, perhaps, to some people. Lots of nice headed goals and stuff. Everything just looks a little bit more weighty, if you ask me. And that is a thing I really, really like. We scored a couple of headers on this game too, which was nice. Bubala with both the assists, which is really cool. It's the curl on the ball, though. That's a new thing that you'll see a lot of this year. And the passing, everything just looks a little bit more smooth, more real. They feel like they're actually planted on the floor rather than sort of skating sometimes. But what I really want you guys to see is the curling free kicks. Now, watch this strike from Nerik. Watch the way the ball curls away. Oh, it looks so good. It looks just as good as that in 2D as well, so don't worry. I do love the way the players will get together and do a bit of patty cake when they've actually scored a goal. But it's just really, really nice to see. The players look like when they actually hit the ball, there's actual power behind it, even in headers. And when the players collide as well, they react much more naturally than they have done in previous years. You'll notice it more with slide tackles and stuff like that. We get a penalty later on, as you'll see. Even the deflections look good. That's gone off his arse and into the back of the net to make it 3-1, or was it 2-1, actually? This was in the German Cup, of course. Lovely old stuff, basically. It's really, really nice to see this just be improved little by little each year. Lovely finish there from Bernd Nerig as well. Honestly, when it comes down to the match engine, my favourite thing is the curling. It works for crosses too. You'll see it as well. If you're playing from a slightly different angle, the crosses in just look much more smooth. The ball is great. Everything is really, really looking good. I'm probably still going to stick to 2D for my saves this year, but at least the 3D replays are going to look absolutely incredible. There was us winning the penalty. You can actually see, if you're very careful, him being pulled down to the ground here. And even the nets, when the ball hits the net there, it doesn't jump 30 feet in the air. It looks like the ball has actually hit something solid. Even the cartwheels look good. I'm a fan of this. So one of the first experiences you're going to get of the new training setup is being asked to either assign it to your backroom staff or handle it yourself, just like you would any of the other staff responsibilities that you get asked about at the start of the game. However, if you're like me and you want to have control over pretty much everything you want to do, you're going to want to do it yourself. However, that is something I have no experience with as of yet, and even after a couple of days of playing the game, I'm still incredibly wet behind the ears when it comes to this sort of stuff because there is so much depth. And that's what we all kind of wanted out of the game, to be honest. You can make your own schedules, but the game has a load of them built in as presets that you can now use. And when I say a lot, I mean a lot of them. It's great because there's some for pre-season. You can have light, medium, and high in terms of intensity if there's matches coming up. All sorts of stuff. Now, of course, as I said, you can just leave it to the backroom staff, let them do it. I don't know how good of a job they're going to do. Probably a pretty good one. But if you're like me and you really want to do that, you want to take over that sort of stuff yourself. Now, there is, of course, a schedule screen, which has the current training schedule on it, and you can see every single thing. It's all color-coded. It's perfect and lovely with loads of presets, which is brilliant. Frankly, if you have left it to your assistant, it'll already be filled in. But there are so many presets. It's unreal. There's light, medium, and high for pretty much everything, depending on different scenarios, whether it be tactical training or pre-season training, or different types of tactics. It's fantastic. It really, really is. And I can't even begin to explain how much depth there is to this particular mode. And I'm not even going to attempt to try to do that because I just do not have that level of expertise in such a short space of time, quite frankly. But hopefully what you're seeing on screen at the moment, well, you should be because I can see it as well, it is just how much stuff there is to do in these menus. Now, some of this stuff is subject to change because this, of course, was recorded on the alpha. Like these menus particularly that show the different risks of different types of training. That's going to be streamlined from what I hear, so that's going to be really, really cool to see as well. One of my favorite things about the training is the fact that everything is completely customizable. But not only that, everything you make in the training, you can save it, you can export it as well, which means that for lazy folks like me that are probably not going to be able to come up with excellent stuff that works by themselves, we will be able to find stuff on the internet, no doubt, after not very much longer period of time that will at least be able to help us with that kind of stuff. I mean, every single one of these different training methods, and believe me, there are hundreds of individual types of training that you can use. They all affect different parts of the teams. Obviously, if you're going to be doing defending training, then it's not going to be really affecting the attackers. And if you did a whole week of defending training before, say, a big match, say you're playing Chelsea and you're a lower table Premier League side, that's the sort of stuff you could concentrate on. But you might also want to look at fitness levels. There's even things like extracurricular stuff like team bonding and community outreach. I'm not entirely sure on the effects, but it does actually show you the impact. So we've got this teamwork, conditions slightly reduced, and team cohesion is slightly increased. So that's the sort of stuff that's very, very, it's nice to see it in the game, basically. It really, really is. As you can see, you can name any schedule you want, which means that you could basically have a whole season's schedule's worth of plans. So not one for every week, because it will mostly be relatively similar. And the other good thing is they have matches as built-in parts of them, so you know where they are. But if you don't, you can just move it to the correct day, and that way you can plan your schedule around where the matches are. It will show you the intensity that's required. So matches is obviously maximum intensity, and other different types of training will have varying levels of intensity, which can affect the fatigue, the conditioning of the players, the teamwork, all of these different things that you're now going to have to balance, that was kind of just done under the hood before, or that you had really little control over and was mostly just assigned to your assistant at most times, if you're me, basically. Right, we're back. I really hope you did enjoy that first little look at stuff. Don't worry, there's plenty more stuff coming up tomorrow. I've still got at least another 6 hours of footage to sort through, to get plenty more footage for the next couple of videos of this, so don't worry about that. But if you did enjoy what we've seen so far and you're looking forward to FM19, do drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you're new. We're going to be getting stuck into some proper good stuff very, very soon. Do not worry. So, with all that in mind, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys soon, and yeah, see you guys tomorrow, actually. Bye-bye.